Hello, everyone. This is Matthew Lowry with Conquest Chronicles, and I am here with Jesse Brummel. Jesse Brummel, who used to be a USC recruiting coordinator, I believe, at USC for the Trojans. And today we're going to be talking about National Signing Day. Get his thoughts on what took place yesterday and the USC recruiting class of 2019. Jesse, how are you doing today?
I'm pretty good. Thanks for, how about you?
Doing pretty good, thank you. Thanks for joining me today. So I wanted to ask you, and I know a lot of people were talking about USC's National Signing Day yesterday. Wasn't I believe it wasn't really the recruiting class that we expect or that many expect that USC would have, but they managed to take care of a lot of needs, mainly at defensive back with the defensive back depth as well as addressing some things. Jesse, what are your thoughts on on National Signing Day yesterday? Did you feel that USC actually, put together a pretty good class, or was it something different compared to what we've seen in years past with USC and the recruiting scene?
Yeah, I actually think, funnily, I think it's both of those things. It's definitely different than what USC has done in the past in the sense of USC and USC fans are always used to, you're going to go out and get probably two or three, four, even five-star recruits. And this year, it's just kind of a force. So you just got one. But I think they also addressed those needs, like you kind of said, where they really shored up that defensive back depth. And I also think it's an underrated class. I think a lot of these guys that are three stars are going to play higher than their potential. I think there's a lot of really talented guys that they got in the secondary, and being able to flip even like an Adonis Odie from Arkansas, it's an FTC guy. It's nice to be able to get some physical guys in this defensive backfield to really shore up the strength of that. They didn't really have depth going into this year from defensive backfield and in the secondary. And so a lot of those guys were even banged up, the guys that we still have, so coming off of big surgery. So being able to address that was huge. All credit to Greg Burns for going out and finding guys that were left, and like I said, flipping even Adonis Odie. So he didn't have much time to really do all this after he just got hired. So being able to put a class together like this, I think was big. And it's interesting, 18 three-star guys. I'll talk about all the stars. This is the most three-star guys USC's ever had since 2002, something like that, when recruiting really got paid more attention to in that internet era. So it's going to be interesting to see. They still got to go play it out on the field, but I'm actually more excited than I think a lot of USC fans, and even some experts are really giving them credit for.
And I honestly I believe it's a solid class as well. I think this will mean that USC can go out and actually start developing guys, and that's been a huge thing that USC hasn't that has been criticized with USC is the coaching and developing guys. Who are some recruits in this year's class that you're looking forward to? I know you mentioned Adonis Odie from who was an Arkansas commit. But who are some guys that that USC fans don't really know about, but they're very under the radar guys that we can keep an eye on come spring or fall camp?
Yeah, I would start with Dorian Hewitt. He's a safety out of North Shore, Texas. North Shore won the Division I state CIF championship in Texas, and as we all know, Texas is a top three, if not the top state for high school football. So that was a big thing, I thought. And I mean, the dude runs a 10-7, 100-meter dash, something like that. Really, really fast. He's pretty physical. I think that's someone that can help out in safety pretty much immediately. I mean, obviously, we got to see how it plays out. And I think your point to development, I think, is big. And they have that. It's just that developing guys. I think, especially on the offensive line, these guys aren't getting developed enough. But this is a new staff, not completely new, but a lot of new guys on the staff. So I'm interested to see how they do develop them. But again, yeah, Dorian Hewitt is he actually signed the night before signing day, and it was a really under the radar signing. I don't think a lot of people were really talking about him leading up to and then even on signing day. So I really like Dorian Hewitt. Kawana Makala out of Punahou, the Hawaiian corner. He's another dude. He's long. He needs some work. I think he needs to get a little bigger. But he's long. He's rangy. He's got some talent. And then the third one I'll say is Jalen Watson. Watching his tape, he's a JUCO transfer. So he is really, really physical. Watching his tape, he's someone who covers well, and he's super physical. And like I kind of said about Adonatoti a little bit, having that physicality, that SEC physicality here in the Pac-12, I think can do wonders for this team.
Now, for moving on the offensive side of the ball with recruiting as well, we have as you mentioned him earlier, Kyle Ford being the only 5-star who committed to USC in this 2019 class. Now, last season during his senior season at Orange Lutheran, he tore his ACL, and I believe Clay Helton said that that he's on track to make a return to the field in April. Do you see Kyle Ford, stepping on the field, playing this season, or do you see him as a red shirt to further rehab the injury that he suffered from last season?
I see him as a red shirt, honestly. I mean, I wouldn't want to rush him back anyway. So he's someone that if you can bring him back full strength, and USC's returning receivers, you still have Michael Pittman, you still have Tyler Vaughn, you still have Amon-Ra St. Brown. There's a lot of talent still in that receiver position returning to USC, so there's no need to rush back Kyle Ford and try and put him on the field immediately. I think it'd be smarter to let him fully recover and take that redshirt year this year. I don't see the point, and especially now Puka Nacua obviously is a big toss-up right now, and everybody's leaning Washington, and it's looking like he's not going to sign with USC anymore. But if somehow SU is able to pull him back, that'd be another thing to say, Kyle Ford, just take a redshirt year, because you can throw Puka in there for a little bit of depth. But there is a lot of receivers that are very talented at USC right now. There's no need to rush back Kyle Ford. So I think he takes a redshirt year. I think that's what makes the most sense.
And for USC, now that that 2019 is done, what's usually the thought process throughout the coaching staff after they get done with the previous class, or when they get done with the 2019 class or that year's class? Do coaches start looking towards 2020 or while they're getting ready for spring ball? Or is that something where they're not as heavily invested in what's going on for the next year recruiting class? They'll kind of approach it as it comes. Like, how does that usually work after National Signing Day?
Well, yeah, I mean, recruiting never stops. So it's not even just the 2020 class. You're consistently looking even over to 2021, 2022. Obviously, you're not super invested in the 2022 class right now. I think the biggest thing, and especially in this last month, everything's focused on 2019. But now that everybody gets kind of locked in here, signs their letter, you're already looking towards 2020. And, I mean, obviously you're looking at spring ball, and these coaches have to focus on what's going to go on the field. But now that they've got these guys, they're excited to kind of plug and play, get these guys into their positions. But from a recruiting standpoint, purely recruiting, because obviously your coaches are looking towards the actual game and what they need to do from that football standpoint, not recruiting necessarily. But from a recruiting standpoint, it's already started. I mean, there's guys getting offered from 2020. There's even guys decommitting that have been offered in the 2020 class. I did Coy Moore. I mean, he just put up Instagram like a week and a half ago, decommitting from USC. But and he's actually citing a lot of the coaching instability, quote unquote, and could go on about coaching instability for a long time. I'm not going to bore anybody with that, but they're already focused on 2020 and locking up and making sure that these 2019 guys are able to come into the school really well. And that's something the USC does really well also, is that there's never like a okay, well, we got this class in, let's forget about them. And even on a standpoint of when they graduate from the school, they're always open arms to bring those guys back in and talk as well, and you can come back after they're done playing football and finish their degree. So that same mentality goes all the way through recruiting. And while they are more moving the page, turning the page, going into that 2020 recruiting class, they're still paying attention to 2019, but that focus is going to shift very soon.
Now, for next season, I know a lot of people are not too keen on Helton, but right now he ended up getting a new coaching staff in place, which includes Graham Harrell coming in to run the offense as their new offensive coordinator. What are your thoughts on the Graham Harrell hire? Like, what are your views on it? Do you think this is something that USC needed based off of what we saw last year? I think it helps, but is this what USC needs? Is just a breath of fresh air and a new system to get away from what USC's been running for the last few years with Kiffin and Sark, as well as with T. Martin and certain instances with Helton calling plays. Will Graham Harrell actually help the USC offense moving forward? Like, what are your expectations on that?
Yeah, I'm 100% in on Graham Harrell. I mean, I don't want to say Kingsbury light because that assumes that he's going to run a worse offense than Kingsbury. I mean, he does run an area, he does throw a lot, and it's a little bit different than Kingsbury. But I think that it's going to be a really successful offense. Just he has all the tools, and this is one of the things that I was frustrated with probably the most all of last season was the inability to switch up and make adjustments. The second half scoring on USC's team last year was so down. With the talent they have, they should never be under 30 points in a game, in my opinion, especially in college football. So this is a team that is going to just score a lot. They're going to throw a lot, and they have running backs in place to help with that air raid system as well. Stephen Carr, Brian Pai, they're incredible. Those dudes are very good running backs. So everybody's in place, and I think the biggest issue was coaching in the sense and was play calling on the offensive side. I don't think the defense did even that bad a job. The offense and the defense help each other. So when the offense isn't scoring and they're going 3 and out in the second half, defense is going to get tired, and that's when they allow all their points. The offense is going to score a lot more this season with Graham Harrell. And again, the receivers are all coming back. It's one of the most talented receiving corps in the nation. I truly believe that. And they just didn't get to show it last year because of the play calling, because of that inefficiency on offense. So I think Graham Harrell is going to make a huge difference. Now, is it going to be enough of a difference to maybe go to the playoffs? Probably not. USC has a tough schedule. It started out with Fresno State in the 110 games last year, and then you go into Stanford. So that's a really tough first 2. But if they can come out of that first 4, it's Fresno State, Stanford, BYU, Utah. If they can come out of those first 4 at 3-1, I'd be happy with that, and I think that would be a good start to the Graham Harrell era. But I do think Graham Harrell is going to make a big impact.
And our last question, I know it happened, I want to say weeks ago. I know everybody don't want to really talk about it, but the Bru McCoy situation. In your opinion, what do you think transpired that led to him transferring after enrolling at USC for being at USC for only 3 weeks? I know a lot of people said because of Cliff Kingsbury's departure played a part in it, which we knew Graham Harrell ended up being hired, I believe, a week after he left. What are your thoughts on it, and what do you think transpired in that situation for him to leave USC and to go to Texas?
Yeah, I was initially shocked, to be perfectly honest. Anyway, I knew that the Cliff Kingsbury fiasco was going to hurt USC in recruiting, but I didn't think that Bru McCoy was going to be the fallen piece there because of the modern day ties. I mean, JT Daniels was his quarterback, and then next year Bryce Young, assuming he doesn't decommit, he does end up coming, is the quarterback. So he was his quarterback last year, and he'll be coming in after that 2020 class. So those modern day ties, I thought were going to be strong enough to be able to hold him through. I think the biggest thing was just the time it took after Kingsbury going to the NFL and hiring Graham Harrell. I think if they hired Graham Harrell maybe 2 weeks before, not to say that's an easy job because he was turning down the North Carolina job, and I heard that he had turned down the USC job initially when they offered it, and then ended up taking it after a while, obviously. But that time in between where, you know, the phrase coaching instability comes up again, or just the fact that no one really knew who the offensive coordinator was going to be, he wasn't happy with that. And that's what it seemed to be. He just felt like going over to Texas was the right decision for him. I'd be interested to see what the timeline looked at, because he had said before he went out to the All-American Bowl that he was signed. He said, quote, signed, sealed, delivered. And then he went over to Texas, which is where the All-American Bowl was played, where I would assume Texas kept talking to him because there were still those rumors. Even though he wasn't committed yet, he ended up committing in the game. But that whole week, if he was signed and Texas was still talking to him, that's tampering. And not to cry tampering, I wouldn't want to, there's no point anymore. He's at Texas. That's done. But I'd be interested in that timeline, too, to see if they kept talking to him and kind of convinced him, and now it's that final say. Now, I think he just made the decision that he felt was right for him. He was growing more and more upset by the day with the fact that there wasn't a hire, and it didn't seem like there was any headway being made on a hire, and I think it was impatience at the end of the day. The fact that he couldn't wait anymore, and he wanted to just kind of get in and get going. But I honestly believe that if they would have hired Harold 2 weeks before they did, 2.5 weeks, maybe 3, obviously, which is tough to do, but if they did, then I think Bru McCoy would still be a Trojan.
Jesse, I want to thank you for coming on, for interviewing with us. Tell us where people can find you on social media. Also, I understand you also host a podcast, or Talk USC Recruiting, on a podcast as well. Where could everyone go and listen to that?
Yeah, so I host a podcast on Believe Podcasts, and that's at BLEAV.com. Also available on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, iHeart, all that. You can find me specifically on Twitter at Jesse Brummel, JESSEBRUM. That's Twitter and Instagram as well. Always keeping up with recruiting and other things as well. So there's that, and then again, Believe Podcast on Twitter and Instagram, so you can find me on both of those.
Jesse, thank you once again for joining us, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, man.